So the agenda for the second module is we'll be looking into HTML. What is HTML? How to create HTML files? What is the structure of an HTML file? What are the elements? Generally, HTML file is made up of elements which we call as HTML elements. How many types of elements do we have? We can also call them as tags, HTML tags. So HTML, what are the different types of HTML elements, and what are the different tags that are available as part of HTML, and we'll see some of the attributes belonging to HTML tags. So this will be our agenda. So let's dive in. So first thing, HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It's a huge uh, point for you guys. That HTML is not a programming language. So be careful when you are referring to HTML. So HTML is not considered as a programming language. Why? You might ask me a question, why we can't consider HTML as a programming language? Uh, 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 just try to understand a programming language. The basic purpose of a programming language is to write logic. Okay. So in HTML, you can't do that. So HTML cannot help you in writing logic. So HTML is all about markup. So you will simply state some elements along with the content that you are going to display. That's it. There is no logic. So for example, HTML does not have any conditional statements like if, switch, etc., or it doesn't have any looping statements like do, while loop, do loop. So there are no programming constructs in HTML. So we can't treat HTML as a programming language. So HTML is not a programming language. Keep in mind. So then what is HTML? So hypertext markup language is a standard markup language for documents designed to be displayed in a web browser. So this is a language. Of course, this is a language, but it is not considered as a programming language. Now this is a standard markup language. Markup is uh, the meaning of markup is just that you are indicating the content with some uh, marks. Okay. So for example, if you want to say the for example, you can see that the definition from Wikipedia is in italic. So how can you say that these two lines must be displayed in italic? So the starting and the ending point, you need to select all the content between these 2 points, and you have to specify that this text needs to be displayed in italic. So the indication will be done by these uh, markup tags. Okay. So the primary purpose of the HTML is to design documents which will be displayed on a web browser. Of course, these documents are also called as web resources. Apart from these, there are many kind of web resources, but HTML documents are the primary, uh, will occupy a primary portion of web resources. And from W3 schools, you can also see the definition. It is a standard markup language for creating web pages. So every web page, when you are calling it as a web page, definitely includes HTML. So without HTML, you cannot create web pages. Without HTML, you cannot create documents that need to be called as web pages. Okay. So uh, before getting into the next session, next part of creating HTML files, I want to clarify you something. So there are different versions of HTML, guys. There are uh, uh, it was roughly invented between 1990 and 1993, and there are a lot of changes that happened to the HTML since then. So the most popular version of HTML was HTML4. It was considered as HTML4. It was long back. The HTML4 version standardization was done by a consortium called as W3 Consortium, World Wide Web Consortium. So as you all, as we have already seen, that HTML was invented by a person called as Tim Berners-Lee. So and it was made publicly used. So everyone was using their own kind of thing, and there was no standardization. So there was a consortium formed, for standardizing this HTML. So World Wide Web Consortium, and it standardized the HTML, and the most popular standardized version of HTML was HTML4, and it was the most widely used version of HTML. Still, most of you guys know HTML4 only. After HTML4, the W3C consortium has decided that we need to make HTML more stringent and strict. HTML was a loosely typed language. It doesn't require strict syntax initially, but now it requires strict syntax. Even now also, it is much easier to learn because the syntax is very simple and you can do minor tweaks with the syntax. The HTML4 was not adhered with a strict syntax, so W3C consortium decided to make HTML stricter and invented a new version of HTML called as XHTML, right? So extended hypertext markup language, not XML. I'm repeating it again. It is XHTML, extended hypertext markup language, which was way more stricter than HTML4, but they soon realized that it was a waste of time, and XHTML never got on track. And then the standardization of HTML was divided between W3C and a HTML work group, HTML-WG, and then it again divided between another work group. So now there are two main parties that are working on HTML. So they both combinedly developed a modern version or standard of HTML called as HTML5. So the HTML5 was the modern version. So HTML5 brings in a lot of features that were lagging in HTML4, and then after HTML5, the both parties, which is the working group, HTML working group, and the uh, World Wide Web Consortium, has decided that it is not uh, uh, good to release HTML as a version, and so they have decided that they make HTML as a living standard. So now, whenever you call HTML, we are not talking about any one specific version of HTML. We are talking about a living standard. Means there is no HTML 4.3.6 and there is no HTML6 coming up. We just have HTML. So whenever they develop a new feature, they are going to simply include it in the current running HTML. That's it. There will be no next version of HTML coming up. So now what we have is a HTML living standard. Now, guys, remember, HTML is also past. Now we have a HTML standard. Now HTML is being standardized. It is a living standard. There are no versions, right? Okay. Next, how to create an HTML file. So whenever you create an HTML file, you will need to the extension of the file has to be .html. Remember, .html, and you can run the HTML file on any browser. We don't require a web browser to run the HTML file. We only need web browser to distribute those HTML files to multiple clients. But when you're developing a web application, when you are when you are creating HTML files, if you want to run it, you can directly run it on a browser. There is no need for web browser. So, and another thing is index.html is considered as the root page or the home page of website. So here you can see www.example.com will always give you index.html. You might not explicitly ask for index.html. So the default HTML page that the server will return when you simply uh, uh, request a server without any specific page, you will be returned with an index.html only. You can also request a specific HTML page, like in the second example, example.com/about.html. Okay, so guys, observe this. So the first line and the second line are different. Okay, so these two represent two different web resources. So because that's why we are representing them with unique URLs. So you don't find two resources with same URL or a URL pointing you to two different resources. Every resource has a unique URL. So the second example will return you the about.html file. Okay, so to create an HTML file, what you guys need to have is a text editor. So even a notepad will do, but we'll for some leverage we'll use what we call as a code editor. So I have already installed the code editor in our system. So I'm going to start a code editor. So Sublime. So Sublime Text 3. So this is the code editor that we are talking about. So the code editor offers a little bit of advantages when writing code. So for example, if you want to create an HTML file, you can create an HTML file. So let's just create a simple folder on my desktop. I'm creating a new folder. So I have created an HTML workshop folder there. So when I open the folder, it is empty. Okay. So now I'm going to Sublime. So in a code editor, what the advantage is that you can open the code editor in a specific folder. So click on File, Open Folder. So on the desktop, we have HTML workshop. I'm going to open that folder. So now the Sublime text is opened in a folder. Okay. So I'm maximizing this. So for example, if I want to create a new file, new HTML file, you can do that in two different ways. First of all, I'll show you the very simple and straightforward way. Right click, select new text document. We are not creating a text document. Remember guys, we are creating an HTML file, but the simplest way is to use the text document. So I'm creating this index, remove the .txt extension and type in .html. So remember guys, you have to remove .txt extension or it will stay as a text document. You have to remove the .txt extension and type .html and click enter. Now when you press enter, you'll be prompted that you are going to change the file extension. Is it okay? Yes, we are trying to change the file extension from .txt to .html. Yes, click on yes. Right. So now this is an HTML file. So when the file was created, you can easily observe that this the file icon changed to Chrome icon because Chrome is the default browser in my system. So you can directly double click on it and open the browser, and you can see this index2.html. I already have index.html, it seems. So that's why the number 2 was appended to the name. Okay. So I'm closing the browser. So if you want to write something, you can always open in Sublime Text. Now this is the HTML file. So let's write something. Hello world. So I'm saving it, and then again I'm simply opening it in a browser. So you can see that the hello world is been displayed. So HTML documents can display text as is in the browser. You can type in the text and it will be displayed on the browser without any need of markup. Okay. So this is the first way that you can create an HTML file. Remember to change the extension from .txt to .html whenever you are creating an HTML file in this method, because if you forget to change the extension, the file will stay the same, and you cannot, you will not be able to run it in a browser. I'm deleting the file. I'm heading into the HTML workshop folder. Here now I'm again repeating the same process. I'm right clicking, new text document, and then I'm creating index, deleting the extension .html. Do you want to change the extension? Yes. So now here is my index.html file created. So now this folder is already opened in Sublime. Now you can see the folder showing the index.html. So whenever you double click, the index.html file will be opened. Okay. So this is the process how you create HTML files. So the only thing that you guys need to remember is that you always change the extension to .html. The most of the people will uh, who start working with HTML will face problem here only. They forget to look at the extension. Even if the file name says index.html.txt, it is still a text file. Okay. Okay. Let's continue. So you can use any editor to create an HTML file. That's it. Next, coming up to the main thing, HTML tags. So HTML documents uh, contain content, data content, text content, textual content, which is enclosed in tags or HTML elements. An HTML element generally, or a HTML content is generally enclosed in angular brackets. So here you can see the syntax and the tag name. So this is an element. Okay. So that is an element. So the tag name is an element. Okay. So this is enclosed in brackets, angle brackets. So generally the tags or element comes in pairs. So we have a pair of the same element. So one is the starting tag, one is the ending tag, and remember always the ending tag have a forward slash before the name of the element. We always have a uh, 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 forward slash before the tag name. So here are some of the examples. So this is a h1 tag. So see h1. This is the starting tag, and this is the ending tag. And you will also find some tags which close themselves. So they are called as self closing tags. Here you can see this is a line break tag. So BR stands for line break tag, which just close itself. So here the forward slash comes just before the uh, slash. So the line break tag does not have a content. For example, if you say this h1 means it is a heading tag, so it needs to display a heading. So the text that must be displayed will come in between the starting and ending tags. But line break, it is just an action. It doesn't have any content to display. So there should not be two tags, one opening and one closing. So you can simply use only one tag which closes itself. So in HTML5, you can even remove the slash and simply say BR. So here we don't require any closing, right? Next, attributes. So attributes, every HTML tag that you find will have attributes. Attributes are they are there for to specify more information about a tag element. You can only specify up to a limit with the tag name, but if you want to specify uh, more details about that element, now you can use attributes. So attributes are generally uh, placed inside the starting tag. So here you can see if this is our tag. So after the tag name, after giving a blank space, then you can have a attribute. So generally, attribute are specified in key value pairs. So the first one is the key, equal to, and the value. Remember, all the value must always be enclosed in quotes. If you give a value without quotes, the attribute will not work and the HTML will break. Okay. The problem with HTML is it does not show you where the error is. You might have already used programming language like C, Java, especially in Python. Whenever you run a program, if there is an error, a syntactical error in the program, the error will be pointed out by the compiler. But when you are working with HTML, there is no such chance. If there is an error in the HTML syntax, HTML markup, you'll be just displayed a blank window. That's it. There will be no error. Now you have to uh, find out the error. Okay, so here is the example. So h1 is the heading tag, then the title is an attribute. This is the attribute name, and this is my heading is the attribute value. So attribute comes in key and value pairs. Okay, so for now you might not be understanding the purpose of attributes, but you will understand them in a short while. Well, while when we start uh, writing HTML using HTML tags. Okay. So the two things that you guys need to remember is HTML elements or tags, which are generally in pairs, opening and closing. The closing will have a forward slash before the tag name. Some tags might close themselves. And the thing is attributes. Attributes, they specify additional information for every tag or for every HTML element. They are specified as key value pairs, and they are generally specified placed inside a start tag. You cannot place an attribute in the end tag. You can only place an attribute in a start tag. Okay, so always the value must be enclosed in double quotes or even you can use single quotes, but double quotes are preferred. Okay, next we'll try to understand the HTML page structure. So whenever you are learning a new language, there will be a syntax. Whenever you learn C, you might have learned that in the beginning of the file, you must include all the external header files, and then you need to declare global constant, global variables, and then you need to start declaring the functions, and then you can write define the main function. After main, you can declare the user defined functions and so on. Whenever you're using any language, there will be a syntax. So similarly, here also we have a syntax, but we are calling it as a structure because HTML document is structured, meaning the elements are placed one inside another with the help of nesting. Okay, so the first and foremost element, so whenever you open a HTML page, the first and foremost element that need to be present is the HTML tag or HTML element. So the entire HTML page must be enclosed between these HTML opening and HTML closing tags. Okay, so if you write anything out of HTML tag, that will be treated as a plain text. It might get executed or might not. There is no guarantee. But when you are if you want to write code in a proper way, you have to enclose all the elements, all the tags, everything inside HTML. So the inside HTML, there are two major parts. The first one is head and the second one is body. So the head section and the body section. The head section generally includes some of the details which are not respectively not respect with the content that we are going to display. They're generally about the page. They're not what actually is the page. For example, if you every page might have title. The title is the one, the name that is being displayed on the tab. Okay, I will show you in a short while. So the head can have title tag, which is the page title. It can also have some meta tags and another style tags or script tags. but they are not going to be displayed on your web page. So whatever you include in head tag will not be displayed in the uh, web page. So if you want to display anything, it must go under body. So body holds the actual content that is going to be displayed as part of your web page. For example, here we have some division tag. Inside we have a heading 2 and a paragraph. P stands for paragraph tag. So you can nest any level of tags. Here, see, in HTML we have head and body. In body we have division. In division we have h2. Clear? So the nesting is allowed. Okay. So this is the basic structure of an HTML page. Clear? So let's head to our text editor and let's try out the basic HTML structure. So what you guys have to do is simply HTML. So the every content, each and every content in the HTML file need to be enclosed in HTML tag, right? HTML. Okay. In HTML we have head, and body. Okay. In HTML we have head and body. So inside HTML head you can have title. Let us say first web page and close of the title. So see how we are using tags. We are opening the title tag, typing our content, and then we are closing our title tag. And then coming to body, let us write in a heading. So h1 is a heading tag, hello world, and then I am closing h1. See how each and every element is enclosed in another element. So the root element of the entire HTML page is HTML only. Okay, so let's save it. So press Ctrl S or go to file and save it, and let's run it. Okay, you can run it from desktop, it seems. So let me. Okay, let us run it. So you can simply double click on it to run it. See, when you run it, you see hello world, and the title is in the tab. So the window tab, you can see the window tab, right? So our first web page. So this is the title. Okay. So if you observe, earlier we have already print hello world, but the text was a little bit smaller than this, and it was in a normal style. Now this hello world text is a bit larger, as well as it is in bold. So this is what the heading tags will do. Okay, right? So I want to show you one another thing is, if you write any HTML page like this will be treated as a HTML4 version of syntax. If you want to make your HTML pages adhere to the latest standard, it might be HTML5 or any HTML, you have to place a doc type as the first line. So are you guys seeing it? Let me increase the size. So doc type HTML. Okay, so the doc type HTML is a declaration which makes this HTML file adhere to HTML5 standard or HTML5 above standard. So it is recommended that you always place a doc type. There are now this specification is only telling that this HTML file is of version HTML5. You can also mention another doc type with another value instead of HTML. For example, if you want to write an XHTML file, you can mention the doc type, but it will be a little bit more complex. So doc type is a must in order to adhere to a specific HTML specification or standard. Okay, so whenever you create an HTML page, these things are must and should. Doc type, HTML, head, title, body. These are the basic required HTML tags. Okay, so one advantage of using this kind of code editors is that you can generate all this boilerplate code in a matter of seconds. You don't need to type all things. For example, so I have deleted all this and I am simply typing HTML and pressing tab. Did you guys observe that? I'm deleting it again. I'm typing HTML and simply pressing tab. See, you have all the boilerplate code just made ready for you. There is no need to typing everything. Okay, so this is the advantage of using a modern code editor instead of a notepad. Okay, so our web page. Okay, right. Okay, now uh, let us try to understand what are the elements and types of elements. So there are generally three HTML element types. First one are inline elements, block elements, and semantic elements. Inline and block elements are in HTML since HTML4, but semantic elements are introduced just in HTML5 version. So first of all, we'll look at inline and block elements. Inline elements, they don't start on a new line. They just occupy the width that it requires. That's it. They will be placed side by side. They will not be placed on new line every time you create them. Whereas the block level elements, they always start on a new line. So they start on a fresh line and they occupy full width that is available. Means that they occupy the entire line or entire two lines or entire three lines. So they don't allow another element to start in the same line or just beside them. Okay, here you can see some of the example tags that are inline tags: span, a, image. Okay, and some block level tags like h1 to h6, division tag, paragraph tag, and form tag. So let's get into some coding and try to understand the Chrome developer tools. So whenever you, okay, let's just type in. Save this, and I'm refreshing it. So hello world. Okay. Now, when you press F12 in Google Chrome, you will get a window which we call it as uh, developer tools, Chrome developer tools. Here you can easily identify the HTML text that you're executing. Okay, so you can see whenever I highlight a specific element, whenever I hover over a specific HTML element, it will be highlighted in the actual page, right? So there are a lot of panels in the developer Chrome tools, but elements and console are the most commonly used panels. Okay, so for example, if you are running a web page, or if you want to see the code behind the web page, you can simply press Control U. The another tab will be open and the entire source code for the web page will be displayed. Okay, the shortcut is Control U. Okay, so that's one thing. So let me close this source code. Okay, so let's head back to our HTML document. For simplicity, I am painting my I'm hiding the folder, so hide sidebar. I'm decreasing the size a little bit. Hope you guys can see. Okay. Okay. So whenever I change something, that it we'll see reflecting it here. So first of all, we'll see what are heading tags. Heading tags, we have 6 heading tags, H1 to H6. So this is heading 1. Let me control C and control V. So let me change this. Okay, so here are these heading tags, H1 to H6. H1 is the largest heading tag, which will display the text in the most largest form. And H6 is the last tag. So let us save it and reload the file. So now here you can see the 6 headings. Okay, so the text size, the size of the text is decreasing from 1 to 6. So H1 is the largest heading and H6 is the smallest heading. Let me go close these Chrome tools. Okay, and after heading tags, uh, so let us uh, try to understand. Let's try to try out each and every tag that we have in HTML. Most of the tags. So first tag is heading tag that we have seen, and before heading to the next tag, let us see how to write comments on in a HTML file. You can write a comment in a HTML file by using Angular, exclamation, and 2 hyphens. Now heading tags, and I close the uh, comment. So the comment starts with an Angular bracket, which means a less than, exclamation, 2 hyphens, and ends with 2 hyphens and a greater than symbol. Okay, so these are the heading tags. Next, look at we'll try to look at paragraph tag. Paragraph tag. So P is the paragraph tag. Okay, I'm opening and closing the paragraph tag. So paragraph, what does the paragraph tag do? Is it displays. So remember, this is a block element, means it displays the paragraph in a uh, sorry guys, in a block. Okay, so let us generate some dummy text. So this Sublime can generate, yeah, oh, there is a lot of text here. Let us remove some text. Okay, so I have generated some random text here. So you can simply type in lorem and press tab. It will generate some random text here. So this is a paragraph. Let us save it and reload our web page and see how it is displayed. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll create another paragraph and see how the paragraph tags will stay apart from other elements. So save it and reload it. So see the difference between the two paragraphs and how they are being displayed. Okay, so those are the paragraph tags. Okay, and then the next tag is next we'll look at the list tags, or now we'll try to see div tag. So div stands for division. So div tag doesn't do anything, it just encloses something in it, so it just acts as a container. Okay, so this is a division. This is division tag. You can enclose any kind of anything inside a division tag. So let us say this text is inside a division element. save it and reload our web page. So see, if you see that div will also make a normal text as a block level element. Okay, so division tag is division tag just acts as a container for other elements. So here is our division tag. Next, so there is also a tag called we have already seen a tag called line break tag, right? So if you see this uh, the second paragraph, so if I want to place a line break, I can simply type br, which gives us a line break. So these till now both of these statements are in the same paragraph. Now the line break will start the second statement in a new line. So save it, and so if you observe clearly observe that the br tag uh, push the statement to the next line. So whenever you want to display an element in a new line, please precede it with a break tag, line break tag. Next, we'll see list tags. So there are two types of lists. Of course, there are much more. There is something called a definition list also, but we are only concentrating on two types of lists. The first kind of list is unordered list, which is represented with UL tag. UL stands for unordered list. Now, the UL tag represents unordered list, and the items in the list are represented with li tags. Okay, one close. So let me just copy and paste them. Let us create 4 items. Okay, so UL tag, which is an unordered list, means there will be no order. When you refresh the page, you can see. So item 1, item 2, item 3, and item 4 with the bulleted points. Okay, you can change the way how the unordered list looks like, but that's for tomorrow. It comes under CSS. Of course, you can change this from the tag attribute, but it is not recommended. Okay, the next type of tag is ordered list. Okay, which is represented with OL. Let us close OL. So let us simply copy and paste them, same items here, save it and reload it. Okay, so this is giving me, so you're not able to scroll. What I will do is simply add a div. You don't have to do this. I'm just doing this so that you can always bottom. Oh, sorry. Margin top only. Oh, okay. We got it. So let's don't worry about the div tag. I just written it so that you can scroll up and see the output clearly. Okay, and this is the div tag. So there are two types of list tags. First is unordered list, and the second one is ordered list. You can see the difference between the ordered list will display the items in a number wise format, or 1 2 3 4. You can also make it use alphabets A B C D. You can also use smaller Roman letters or capital Roman letters, etc. Okay, so these are the list tags, and next we look at the another important tag, which is table tag. So if you want to display a table of data inside your HTML page, how you can do? So the table tag. So the table tag has a lot of tags which are a part of it. The most important tag, the important sorry, and the table tag contains three parts: header, body, and footer, which are represented with the t head, table header part, then t body, which is table body. We'll leave the table footer for now, so we'll simply work with, for example, if you want the table to have headers, the first line generally would be the header of the column, right? So the headers will be placed inside the head, which is the header part of the table. So in order to specify the header, you'll need tr, which stands for table row. So the table is created in rows. You'll add up rows to create a table. Okay. So I'm creating a row which is a part of table head. Inside that row, you can create as many columns as you want. For example, if I want to create three columns, and this is a header row, the column has to be enclosed with the head, which stands for table header. Okay, so let us say serial number or ID th name th age. Okay, so now this will be the header. So let us save it and refresh our page so that you can see. Okay, of course table looks ugly. The HTML doesn't consider HTML will always look ugly. If you want to look if you want to make your web page more user friendly, you need to use CSS. So for now, don't worry about the style, the look and feel. It will definitely look ugly. We have to live with it. So we have completed the header. Now we'll try to add some more data rows. So we have to add row. Inside row, there are three columns, right? So now we need to create three uh, a row with three values. Now instead of th, we'll be using td, which stands for table data. Td. So let us say 101 td td. Okay. So similarly, we'll try to, I'm copying and pasting this, create three rows and changing the details. Let us save it and look at our table. So as you can see, now we have displayed the table in sorry guys. Okay. Now this is a table which displays rows of data. So table tag was one of the most popular tag to organize or structure the HTML page previously, but nowadays we are not using table tag. If time permits, I will show how a table tag can be used to uh, structure the elements inside your web page, but it is not at all recommended. We now have some advanced uh, elements like CSS grid and flexbox, which can do much more better than a table tag. It is not just recommended, it is a very bad practice nowadays to use a table tag to organize your elements. But if you want to display data in a table format, you can use a table tag. So remember, table, t head, t body. Even without a t head, you can create a table with t body. So remember, you will create a table as a collection of rows. You can create a table header with th and a regular content with td table data. Okay, we'll proceed. So the next tag that we will look is the form tag. So with HTML, uh, you can create user input elements, but you cannot make them work. Means you can create a button, but you cannot make the button do some action by using HTML. Okay, so let's create forms. So generally forms uh, are used to take user input. So form tag. So the form tag will itself take a lot of time, guys, because we need to explore a lot of tags inside the form tag. So form. So form is the tag name. So all the user input elements must come under the form tag only. Okay. The form tag has two important attributes that we must talk about. The first attribute is the action attribute. Okay, so what does the action attribute does is it lets you specify uh, when this form is submitted, the data from the form controls need to be sent to this location or this URL. So for example, if you mention let us say process.php. Okay, so let us say that process.php is a PHP file. Uh, the action attribute says that when the user submits the form, this form especially, the data which the user had entered in all the elements will be transmitted to or be sent to a file called as process.php, which might generally be at some other place. Generally, it would be on a web server. So this is how you are going to work when you are learning PHP. So you will create a form, you will create some user input elements, and the user enters the data into the input element and submits the form. Whenever the form is submitted, you will call a PHP file which will be ready to accept the data from this form, and it can process the data and can display some output. Okay, so this is the first attribute, action attribute, form, perform, and the second attribute is method. Okay, so method is the attribute which lets you specify in which way you want to send the data. Okay, you have specified the destination as an action attribute. So the data needs to be sent to that destination which you have mentioned in action. But how do you want to send data? Okay, so generally the HTML has different kinds of sorry, HTTP. So we are using the HTTP protocol for the communication between client and server, right? So whenever you submit a form, the data will always be sent to a server. Okay, so the data transmission, the communication between the client and server will always be uh, done through HTML, sorry, HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol only. And the Hypertext Transfer Protocol will mention have some methods in which you can transmit data. For example, if you are trying to if you are trying to send a user form data, you'll generally use the method called as post. Okay, for example, if you are when you mention post, the data will be sent securely. You can also set get. Get is another method. The popular methods are get, post, put, and delete. Okay, so each and every method has its own way of representing data. For example, if you set the method as a get, what you are asking HTTP is to get some data. Of course, you're submitting data. Let us see uh, an example. For example, if you go to Google, so if you say google.com, okay. So now when you're typing it, so let us consider this text box as part of form, okay. So for example, if I'm typing web development, okay. So when I hit enter or when I click search, what happens is the data will be sent to Google server. Now here we are sending the data to the server, but at the same time we are also asking the server for data, which is related to web development. Am I right? Okay. So the main functionality that we are trying to do here is to get data, not to send data. Okay. So this is where the get method will be mostly used. Okay. So when you click on search, actually now the data is sent using get only. Okay. So you may ask me, how can you say that? So let me expand this. Okay. And you can see the URL here. So you can see the search query that you have entered is present in the URL. Okay. So this is the query, right? Okay. You can see the query in the URL itself. So whenever you use get method, the browser, what it does, it just appends the data that you want to send to the URL. Okay, so this is how we can know that whether it is using get or something else. So for example, if you use post, the data will not be appended to the URL, it will be sent as a part of HTTP packet. Okay, so put and delete, obviously you can understand. If you want to delete something, for example, there is a record, employee record in the database, and upon entering the employee ID and pressing the delete button, you're asking the server to delete this, the employee record of the, which is having this particular ID in the server, right? So put, another method is put, which generally is used to update something on the server side. Okay, so you will learn more about this action and method when you are dealing with PHP. For now, I'm just removing those two. Okay, uh, so form. Okay, now let's create a form which takes some basic biodata related information. Okay, so now here we are going to create some elements. Okay, user input elements, and what I will try to do is I will try to enclose each and every input element in a div. Okay, so that they stay separate. Okay, or else we'll first try to uh, create elements. Okay. Okay, well, what is your full name? So a label. So label is a tag uh, which just simply displays a label for an input control. Full name, label, I think, label. Next, the another important tag is the input tag. So input is the tag which will create user controls. Okay. So the error is here. Sorry guys. Okay, so input tag. So input tag will create input elements. For example, the full name, which is generally text. So if you want to create a text box, you will use input tag and set the type attribute to text. Okay, now this will create a text box. Similarly, another label to take your age. Now you can use input tag with type equal to number. So now you will create a input field which can be used to enter a number only. So let us save this right now and let us reload our page and see. Okay, so now we have the full name and age fields side by side, and they're just below the table, which makes it look more uglier. So what I will do is, after the table tag, I will use a tag called as HR, which stands for horizontal ruler. Okay, I'll use a line break BR as well as HR. Okay, so whenever you use HR, you will see in horizontal line being drawn. So when you reload, now you can observe, right, there is a line, horizontal line on the page. Okay, so now our form looks apart from our table. So now all input elements are inline elements. So now you can understand what is an inline element means. So the label, immediately after the label, we got an input box. Immediately after the input box, you got another label age, and then immediately after age, you get another input box of type number. So they are not displaying in a new line. Means these all elements, all input elements are inline elements. They come beside another. For example, if you want to display them uh, in a separate line, what you can do is you can simply use a break tag, save and refresh. Now they are in two different lines. Okay, even still it looks much uglier. So the better way, or the best way to display form elements is to enclose each and every element in a div tag. So what the div tag generally does is it just separates. Okay, let me tab this out. Right, so now when you save and refresh it, oh, it is just simply showing me the same thing. Okay, so the default styling for these two text boxes or the input elements is not much better here, it seems. Okay, anyway, let's proceed. For example, if you want to take uh, an email, so here from now I'm not using the div tag. Okay, so using div tag will obviously give you an advantage because you can apply some CSS styles to the div tag, which will obviously make your form look better. But for now I'm not going to use div tag between the elements. I'm only going to use the line break. I did a mistake. Form tag one, form, FORM. Okay, it's form tag. Yeah, there is a typo. Thanks for pointing out, guys. Right, so the next element that we are going to input, that we are going to ask the user is email ID. Email label input type equal to email. Now this input field will allow user to only enter an email ID. Okay, so user cannot enter anything else. Okay, it will show you an error. Of course, it requires some validators to do that, right? Next, for example, if you want to take the gender, so let us enter a tag and label. Generally, the gender input will be taken using radio boxes. And now let me show you how to use the radio boxes. Okay, input, if you want to create a radio box, the type of the input element that you need to create is radio. Okay, and then you also need to specify the label for that radio. What I will do is I will simply copy this and paste it. Email. So now these two are the radio boxes. Okay. When you reload, you can now see these two radio boxes. But the interesting thing is that you are able to select both of them, but it is not possible, right? So you need to specify that these two radio boxes belong to same input value. So for that, what we are going to do is we are going to use another attribute called as name. Okay, so we can use the name attribute for even other types also. You can use the name attribute for email type, number type, text type also, but here you'll be using the actual advantage of having the name attribute. So now here I've set the name of these two radio boxes to gender only. Now explicitly we are specifying, what we are specifying is that these two radio boxes now belong to same group, right? Now you can see that I am only able to select one of those two radio boxes. Got it? Okay, so this is how radio boxes are created. And then let's proceed with another control. Now we'll try to create a checkbox. So we'll ask for marital status. Now here we are going to create a checkbox. Okay, type equal to checkbox. Okay, now I'm saving it. Okay, now here you can see this is a checkbox. You can check it and uncheck it. Of course, you can create any more checkboxes as you want. Okay, I'm just here trying to demonstrate each and every input element that we have. Okay, and another BR tag. Now let us, for example, let us ask date of birth. Okay, we label date of birth. Now the input type for taking the date of birth is date. Okay, just going to semicolon and space. It looks a bit better. Okay, so now you can see the date of birth field is now asking for us to enter a date. When you click on it, you will obviously see a calendar from which you can select the date. Okay, so this simplifies most of our things. Initially, HTML used to have only some simple input type elements, but these elements, the date type elements, email type elements, have been added to the HTML, which made our lives much simpler. Next, try out another tag, which is okay. We have completed date, checkbox, radio. So there is one another input tag that I want to show you guys. I want to just simply show you. It doesn't fall in the context in which we are designing the form, but before that, let us ask for mobile number. Label mobile number. Now the input type for mobile number is telephone. TEL. Now TL, it stands for telephone number. Okay, so save it and refresh it. Now you can see this field will only take numbers. Okay, when you submit this will not be accepted. Okay, so you can apply some HTML5 inline validations for these elements. Okay, but the field itself will not uh, accept any text other than numbers in it. Okay, mobile number, and the uh, input type that I want to show you is type equal to password. Okay, so now save and refresh. Here you can see a text box. Now whenever you type something, it will be masked. Okay, so if you want to uh, create a text box in which user has to enter some uh, confidential value, there you can use the input type of password. Okay, so there are other types also, like file, color, URL, month, week, time, etc. But for the time sake, I'm not going to uh, try out each and everything right now. Okay, now let's move on. I'm deleting this password element, and now, for example, so when the user enters all these fields and want to submit the form, we have to provide him a, oh, and the last thing that we have forgot is address, right? Let us take address, label address. Now for address, we are not going to use the input tag. There is another tag which is called as text area. Okay, now by using text area, you can enter a multi-line text. So if you see the first name, which is simply a text box, it will only accept a single line text. But address is a multi-line text, right? So if you want to, if we want the user to enter a multi-line text, uh, you can use text area, right? So this is the text area. You can even resize it. Okay. So this is the address, and after address, let us ask something like uh, country. So here we are going to use a new control. We are going to demonstrate a new control, country. The new control that we are going to use is select. Okay, what select does is it simply displays a drop down list. Okay, in select, if you want to specify the elements, you can specify the elements with option. I'm going to so here are some of the options. So when you hit reload, now you can see the select has created a drop down list. Now you can select any one of the element. Okay, right? And then now finally we will create a button on which by using which the user can submit the form. So you can also create a button with the same input element, input type equal to. Now here we are creating a submit button. So the type would be submit. Okay. So now when you hit refresh, here you can see the button. So of course, when you click on the button, nothing happens because we haven't specified the action, the form tag. So submit will not do anything right now, but you can when you are doing server side programming, you can use the submit button too. Okay, and the another thing is input type equal to reset. Okay, so which will generally, what the reset input type will do is when you type something here, so this is a number value, you can increase whatever you want. Okay, this is an email field. So let me refresh it first. So type some values, and when I reset it, all the form elements will be reset. Means they are all going to be emptied out. Okay. So these are the basic form controls that you might use on a day-to-day basis when you're using HTML. Okay. So when coming to buttons, these two are buttons. Input type submit and input type reset are buttons, and they do specifically have a separate uh, kind of separate operation inside form. But if you want to create a button, you can also do that by using button tag. So when you save it and refresh, so now you can see the button with the text click me. So the text we need to provide here is this. Okay. So for the input button submit and reset, we didn't provided any text that needs to be displayed on the button. For example, if you want to uh, display a specific text, you can pass it as the value attribute. Okay. Let us say, so add. So I'm changing the value for the text for the submit button to add. Let us see whether it will reflect. So I think you can see now. So the default values for the submit and reset button are submit and reset themselves. But if you want to add anything explicitly, you can do so by using value attribute, right? So you can also create buttons outside the form, but these buttons does not do anything until or unless you hook them up with any programming language like JavaScript or PHP or anything else. So for now, this is just a button. Just it looks like a button. You can click on it, but nothing happens. Okay, so that's okay. Now let us try to create an image. Okay, image tag. So image is a self-closing tag. So there is no need that you close the image tag. That's why the editor is also not showing this. So image, the image tag will display an image, but we need to specify which image that needs to be displayed. So we can specify that using src or source. Okay. So let me get an image first. So here we have a banner. I'm creating a new folder, images, in the HTTP workshop folder, and I'm placing the banner.jpg in the images folder. And then what I'm saying is images slash banner.jpg. I think the format is right. Okay, save. And when you hit refresh, yeah, we got the image in the browser. So here we are displaying the image. Okay, got it. So the images slash banner.jpg. So here the source attribute will take the path for the image file. Okay, so here we are giving images slash banner because the banner.jpg image file is in the images folder, which is in our current directory. So if we are trying to display an image from our current directory, you can use the path from right from our current directory. For example, if you want to display image somewhere which is somewhere else, you need to specify the full complete absolute path. Okay, right? So it is advised that you guys that you create an images folder uh, in your project and store all the images that you need to access in the project. Okay, so in this way every resource will be in the same location, right? And another important attribute for image is alt text. Alt, which stands for alternate text. For example, if for some reason if the image cannot be displayed, this alternate text will be displayed in place of the image. Okay, so I have given the alternate text as banner, and I'm simply changing this name of the image so that the image does not load. Okay, we have given the wrong name of the image. Okay, file wrong image file name, so it does not load, so that we can see the alternate text now. So I'm saving the file and reloading the page. Now you can see that there is no image. Okay, instead of image, because there is no image with the name banner 1, so the alternate text is being displayed. Okay, here if you observe, the image is just beside the button click me. So by this you can understand that image is also a uh, inline element. So let us enter a line break so that it could be more neater. I'm changing the image source as to the correct one. And other two attributes are width and height. So let's first set a width 400 pixels. So I'm setting the width of the image to 400 pixels. So when I refresh, you can see the you can now see the image displayed much smaller than the previous one. Okay, so previously the image had occupied a lot more space. Now it is occupying less space. In the similar way, you can also specify height. Let us say 500 pixels. Save it, and I'm refreshing it. Of course, this is a little bit distorted image, but still you can specify. So if you don't specify height, the height will be auto. Remember, if you only specify width and leave out height, it doesn't mean that you are not setting height. The height will be set to auto so that the image will be displayed without any distortion. So I'm removing the height and refreshing it, so there is no distortion, right? It will automatically adjust uh, to the image. Okay, so that's image. Next, let us see hyperlinks, which are the most popular HTML elements. Hyperlinks. So the tag to create an hyperlink is A. Okay, so now A tag or hyperlink tag works only with the value that you provided to its attributes. So the attributes for A tag, the important attributes for A tag is href. The first attribute is href. Okay, the general meaning of href is hyperlink reference. Okay, for example, here we are creating a link. The basic functionality of a link is that when you click it, it it must take you somewhere. Okay, so the destination needs to be provided as a value for href. Okay, so here you can give something as about.html. Okay, so now when you click on this link, it will take you to about.html page. Okay, so the link text will be given between the starting and ending text of the hyperlink. So let us save this and refresh. So A tag is also a inline tag, because that's why it just displayed side of the image. Let me insert a line break. Now you can see the about us. Of course, if you click on it, it will take you nowhere because there is no about.html in our project directory. Okay, if there is about.html, you will be transferred there. Okay, right? So this is A tag. Okay, and another important attribute for A tag is target. Okay, so target is one another important attribute for the A tag. So without target, when you click on the hyperlink, so observe what happens when you click on hyperlink. The destination page will always open here only. Okay. For example, if you want to open the new page in a new tab, then you can use the target attribute. Okay. So let us change this to google.com. So we all know that google.com is there. Now I want to open google.com. When I click on this link, okay, let us change the text also. Google search. But I don't want, see, without target, let us see what happens. Control X, Control V, save, and I'm refreshing. Now, when I click on Google search, yes, we are opening Google search, but here we need to provide yes column slash. Okay. Now the Google will open. Okay, the full path. Right. So see what happens when you click on Google search. The Google search is opening in the same tab. Okay. So now we don't want that. We don't want users to open in our same tab. Right. So what we want our users to is to open Google search in a different tab. So for that we are using target. We want to open a new tab. When you click on the link, the value for this is blank. Okay, so means open this URL in a blank tab, not in this tab. So let us save it and let us try. When you click on Google search, now you observe we have moved to google.com, but in a different tab. Our original page is still there. We are not simply overriding the page, we are simply opening a new tab. Okay, clear? So the target attribute values are predefined. You cannot enter any value for the target. Okay, so you can simply make a Google search to find out the values for the target, but blank is the most common one that will be used. Okay, so this is the hyper tag. So that's a tag. So these tags are the important tags. Of course, there are some more tags that I want to show you. Okay, real quick. Okay, so we are. I'm going to enter some more thing. Okay, so after hyperlink, so let us see quotation tags. Quotation tags. So we have a tag called block quote. It is not generating this text. So we are not able to generate the text. Okay. So I'll simply copy the text from top and paste it inside the block quote. Save it and we'll refresh our page. Now you can see this. This is displayed as a quotation here. Okay, this is not a paragraph. If you go up and see what a paragraph look like, you will simply understand the difference between a paragraph and a block quote. Okay, and you can even mention the citation using the cite attribute. For example, we are getting this from Wikipedia. HTTP colon slash slash sorry wikipedia.org. Okay, so this is the citation that, of course, when you provide the citation, it does not display anything on the web page, but it is just it just provides more meaning to the page and the block code. Okay, so after the block code is a block style block level element, guys, so it will always display in a block. And the next thing is a abbreviation tag, which is represented with ABBR. Okay, so what I will do is I will simply use a paragraph. We are talking about www. So www means World Wide Web, right? So if we want to provide abbreviation, ABBR, World Wide Web, we'll close off the abbreviation and we'll close off the paragraph. Sorry. Okay, now when you refresh it, okay, okay, it must display separately, but it is not displaying it. Let us see why it is not displaying. Okay, right, we need to provide this World Wide Web as part of title attribute. Title equal to World Wide Web. Now when you refresh it, so when you hover over www, it should display World Wide Web. Okay, I forgot to do this thing. So we are, oh, sorry. Okay, so let me get it to another line so that you can easily understand. Okay, so we are talking about www. So the www is enclosed between abbreviation tags, and the abbreviation for www is provided as a title value for the title attribute for the abbreviation tag. So let us save it and refresh. Okay, so when you hover over www, you can see a tooltip saying the abbreviation World Wide Web. Okay, so that's abbreviation tag. And there are some basic tags like strong, which will display bold text. There is another tag called cite, which will display italic or citation text. And there is also, you can also create an underline. We're using U tag, underline text. And for example, if you want to create a strike through, so you can use delete strike text, strike out text actually. So let us strike out text. So let us refresh and see what these will do. Okay, I forgot to add break tag. Let me add break tag so that it looks more understandable. Save it and refresh it. Okay, now you can see. So the strong will always display text in bold. Thickness will be more than the regular text. Citation, cite tag will always display text in italic format. U tag will always display text with an underline, and delete will always display text as striked out. Okay, you can also use a S tag instead of delete for the same functionality, but delete is more semantic, means it is more meaning, it has more meaning to it. Okay, and I think those are the most of the tags that we have covered. Oh, and one another important tag, also not important but most useful tags. For example, if you want to display something as subscript and superscript, there are tags, right? For example, if I want to display log 10 base 2, okay, so log, I can type log, okay, first 10. Let me enter line break log. Now before displaying 10, I want to display 2 as base text, means as a subscript. So for that, you can use sub tag 2 and close out the sub tag and then display 10. Okay, now when you refresh and see, you can see log 10 base 2. Okay, so now 2 is displayed as the subtext. In a similar fashion, you can also display supertext, which means, for example, if I want to display x to the power of y, x sup, supertext tag is sup, x to the power of y. So close out the super tag and refresh it. Now you can see x to the power of y. So now y is a superscript for x. Okay. So we have covered anchor tag, block tag, abbreviation tag, list tags, button tags. Yeah, these tags. So we have covered roughly around 30 to 35 tags, guys. So there are a lot of these are a lot of tags, but of course we still have many more which we generally don't use regularly. But these are the tags that we use regularly. And another important tag that I want to mention here is the meta tag. META, meta tag. Okay, so meta tag also is a self-closing tag. There is no need to use the closing tag. Okay, so meta tag, what does meta tag does is it provides the information metadata regarding the page. For example, if you want to display, if you want to provide the description for the page, so HTML page description for the HTML page in the page itself, you can do so with the uh, meta tag. So for example, if I want to provide description, so meta name is the attribute. Here I want to provide description. Okay, and the content. So the actual description comes here. Okay, right. So in the similar way, you can also add some keywords also. Keywords, content equal to, now you can separate each keyword by comma. Okay, so these meta tags, of course, they don't display anything. For example, let us save and refresh our page. The page doesn't display anything else. It just stays the same. Okay, but uh, these meta tags help search engines a lot. For example, if a search engine wants to crawl your page and wants to know what your page contains and what are the keywords that belong to your page, the meta tags will help a lot. So these meta tags come under search engine optimization also. So it is better that you add meta tags at least for specifying the description and the keywords of your entire web page. Okay, so for now, these are the basic HTML tags. Okay, so let us see what we have covered. We have covered heading tags. So these are all the tags that we have covered. Paragraph, division, line break, horizontal line, horizontal rule, ordered list, unordered list, table, t head, t body, tr, th, td, table row, table header, table data, form tag. In form tag, we have seen method and action attributes. We have seen label tag, which just displays label for the input controls. We have seen input tag with type text, number, email. We have seen select. We have seen option. We have seen text area. We have seen input button. And the another thing that we haven't seen is the placeholders for the form elements. Let us just get back a little. For example, if I want to specify that this text box is for entering full name, of course we have set the label, but what we can do is we can also add something called as placeholder equal to enter your name, sorry, enter your name. I'm saving it and refreshing it. Now you can see. So there is a placeholder. So the enter your name is displaying in gray. So it just intimates the user about the input field. Okay, so in the similar manner, you can also add placeholders for most of the input tags, most of the input text tags. You can also add the same thing to age, email, etc., etc. Okay, so let us add placeholder uh, as age and placeholder for email. The email. Okay, and let us refresh. So you can see these are the placeholders. Okay, they add more meaning to your forms. Okay, right. So you cannot add placeholders for some elements like checkbox and date, but you can add these placeholders for some input elements. Okay. Uh, yeah, we have covered the placeholders. We have covered buttons. So these are the input types. We have seen only some. We have seen date. We have seen checkbox and radio. File. If the file input type will allow you to upload a file, you can browse a file, select it, so that it can be uploaded to server. For example, if you are uploading a file to a server, the user has to browse for the file and select the file name, right? So you can do that with the file. So simply you try out the type input type equal to file and save the HTML file and just see what it looks like. You will easily understand. So similarly, if the user wants to if you want to ask the user for color, you can simply mention the input control type as color, password, telephone number, URL. If you want the user to mention the URL, you can use URL, month, week, time. We have seen strong, delete, yes, underline, image, the source attribute of image, alternate attribute of image, width, height, the hyperlink tag with href and target, block quotation, abbreviation tag, citation tag, small tag. We haven't seen small tag. We'll see the a small tag. Small tag just displays text as a subtext. That's it. Nothing much. You will not find any difference when you see like this without any styling. Okay, and we have seen subscript, superscript, and meta tags. Okay, then we have something called as HTML5 semantic tags. Okay, okay. So let's proceed. So these are the HTML5 semantic tags. Uh, the semantic tag doesn't do much. I'm not going into details. What you can do is they just add meaning to your web page. They don't offer any functionality. Okay, used. Okay, they just add meaning. That's it. For example, if you want to create a navigation bar, you can use nav. Okay, if you want to place header elements, you can place it inside header, which adds meaning, which adds semantics to your web page. That's it. They don't offer any functionality. Okay, instead of header, nav, section, aside, article, footer, instead of any of these 5 semantic tags, you can use a div. Okay, previously we tend to use only div. Okay, but div just don't add any meaning, so it's just a division. It is just a division, and it doesn't specify which kind of division it is. Now here you can specify which kind of division it is. So for looking at now, you can easily understand that it is a navigation section. Now there you will find navigation controls to another pages. Use this, and let me create a new file inside the same about.html. Oh, I guess I have to press Ctrl S. About.html. Okay, I'm simply using the about us. So inside you can create header. After that, you can obviously create section. Inside section you can have articles, some random text, just playing you this. So 2 articles, and after the section you can add a footer, like specifying copyrights. You can use something these things as to create 2020. I'm just simply typing it inside a paragraph tag. Okay, let me add a nav bar after my header. I'm adding nav. Okay, so now this entire part that is under nav comes under navigation. So here I am creating a simple link. I'm not going to create uh, my entire navigation bar. So let us move this to index.html. I just want to show you how we can move from one page to another page. Home. Let us close the a tag. Okay, in similar way, in the index.html also, at the starting before headings, I'm going to add a simple hyperlink tag with ref equal to about.html. About us. I'm simply closing the a tag. So now let us go to the browser. I'm refreshing the browser. Okay, now at the starting you can see about us. When you click on about us, you will get to the second page. Okay, when you click on home here, you'll get back. Okay, so you can create as many pages as you have, but this will not suffice as a website. You need to add more styles and follow more principles to design this. Okay, so the second page that we have created is just like the first page. These things doesn't add any functionality. These are just okay. So the section, article, aside, we haven't set the aside semantic tool, semantic tag, but we can use it. For example, these aside tag can be used to create sidebars. So if you have a website and you want to display a sidebar, you can use aside tag. Okay, so that's it for the semantic tags. I'm not going to go much deeper. So